Alright, we start this off by making a tree. Well, actually several trees, and it's done with armature wire for like flowers and paddle wire to hold it all together. You just kind of clump them all together and sort of bend it the way you want. Followed that up with Vallejo Earth Effects dark. Actually, no, it's not dark mud. It's European dark mud, and that makes the bark, and it's really actually kind of bendy. So once it dries, you can actually refine the shape of the branch to a certain extent. So I mean, I wouldn't go too far with it. Alright, so trees really don't have solid brown bark. There's generally gray in it. So here I'm dry brushing some gray on. And they also tend to have, you know, some moss or something dried on there. So that's what follows up after this, just dabbing on some moss with a piece of sponge. Alright, so the green cotton looking stuff is called polyfiber. A lot of different modeling companies sell it. I didn't have the exact same color as the woodland scenics clump foliage and turf that I was using, so it was a little bit more difficult. But here is just putting on some clump foliage that had like balls of leaves. And now we're pouring on some foliage, and it's just repeating the process until you get it where you want it to be, and you spray on some watered down Mod Podge, whatever. It's the matte stuff, it's watered down, sprayed on, it holds it pretty well. And then I personally come over the top with a odorless hairspray. Now, Rexy needed a lot of work. I tried to fill in some of the cracks and creases so they weren't so noticeable, and then hit her with a coat of dark yellow by Vallejo. It was the air version. It's the same stuff a tiger tank would be painted by a modeler. See, because you know, a lot of the scenes with Rexy are digitally done in CGI, it's hard to tell what exact color she is. I went with a behind the scenes photo from Fallen Kingdom of her in the semi-trailer. And it showed a bit of a brownish color, so that's kind of what I went with. Certainly better than that brownish orange that they originally sold this as. The lion didn't need any work really, per se. It was fairly solid actually. So I was happy about that, but the scale is slightly off between the two, and I tried to hide some of that with tall grass later. This is an oil paint wash after Rexy was a clear coated. It's black oil paint, actually not watered down, but thinned down with odorless thinner. And, you know, the whole point of this is to put it on, let it, you know, dry in the cracks and crevices, and wipe it off. And now we're applying various different browns, like umber, raw sienna, burnt sienna, stuff like that. What I love about oil paint so much is that, unlike acrylics, they don't dry so fast, and they blend so much better, and you have so much more working time with them, and it's just a more pleasant experience to blend them. I didn't really go for a camouflage pattern on Rexy. I just kind of let her natural folds and shadows kind of work to that. And like I said, the great thing about oil paints is that I can spread it so thin that you can still see the dark yellow, which is kind of more of a khaki ish color. Like I said, with filling the cracks and crevices, I only had Vallejo plastic putty, which probably not ideal for this. You'd probably want some sort of epoxy type putty, something thicker that you could actually apply and then sculpt on the folds to correspond with it. I don't have footage of it, but eventually I did add the really dark brown or black circles that Rexy has around her eyes. And you know, this isn't meant to be like exactly perfect to her. Like, you'll see that when it comes to the scars, it's kind of, you know, a tribute, you know, to be close enough. Alright, here's the adding of the drool. I took a piece of clear sewing thread and glued it in place, and now I'm just applying gloss clear coat, and you just kind of keep building it up, building it up, building it up. I also applied it over the entirety of the mouth. Alright, there's not much to say here. Like, I didn't show the blocks being put in place because it's really simple. It's just stacking them and cutting them to the shape. But this is sculpt mold, and this is what holds on the rock face as well. It's just really not much to show, and this is what will paint your rocks. If you're using Hydrocal, I'm not really sure about sculpt mold, you know, as a whole, but with Hydrocal, the only way you can paint it is if you use the dye first, because the white will just keep showing through otherwise. Is sanded grout, and basically I brushed on some Mod Podge matte and drizzled it on it and come over the top of it with the watered down variant, and that should make it dry rock hard and you're good. The gravel is called ballast. Model railroad stores sell that stuff, and all different kinds of sizes, shapes, colors, all that stuff. Alright, what you just saw was painting of the rocks, and it's called a leopard spotting technique. It's good. There's a lot of other videos out there on that, so there's no point in adding it here. Now this is a slow descent into alcoholism. A lot of this had to be done. I hated every second of it. It's terrible. If you're going to do a lot of this, I suggest a static grass applicator, but they're really kind of expensive, and I don't particularly like doing dioramas, so I couldn't justify it for me. But if it's something that you want to spend the money on, then by all means go for it. But otherwise, you're just going to be doing like this, and if you want it standing up, and like I said, it's a slow descent into alcoholism. It's terrible. I mean, just flat out miserable. Yeah, I get angry just watching it. And it's only miserable because it's extremely time consuming. It's You know, create a bunch, cut, apply, create a bunch, you know, or a tuft, cut, apply. There's some mats that you can pick them off and do that, but it's far more expensive. Alright, so this was so big that the best way to show it would be through photo. It's just too big. So that's what we ended up with at the end of the day. I think it's pretty good. It's not perfect, but then again, nothing I do ever is. So, you know, good enough. Better than what I expected, I'll say that.